everybody doing this Wednesday evening? This is the Southern Ballers Show with me, Jared 11 Green, and Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Appreciate those brothers for giving us the courage to do this. Coach, how you doing?
All is well. We had a game today. Took a tough loss. Uh, just getting in not too long ago because
I
I
think
had
your
one.
volume kind of low.
Hold on, bro. Let me see. Can you hear me now? I need to
I don't know. Make
go in.
sure it's not me. Yo, it's my own mind. I'm sorry, brother.
Oh, all right. So
All
anyway,
right.
we had a game today. Took a tough loss. Just getting in not too long ago because one of the players, his mom can't pick him up late, but all is well.
Well, them kids are with coaches like you, man. You definitely changing those kids' life, man. Never take that for granted, brother.
I try to, bro. Try to do my best.
That's all you can do. Trust
Yes.
me. I remember all my coaches. I remember the bad ones and the good ones. So definitely, don't take that for granted, coach. A lot of these, especially young black kids, need people like you.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
how you doing, Picasso? Picasso in the chat. Appreciate you for stopping by, man. A lot of swag and MEAC action. We're gonna go into the HBCU portion of the show. Uh, just wanna go by the standings real quick. For the SWAC West, Fairview A&M is 3-2. They're on the top. Alcorn State is 2-2, second. Coaches Southern University is 2-2. Texas Southern is 1-4. Arkansas Pine Bluff is 2-3, and Grambling State is 1-4. Now for the SWAC East, as we all know, Jackson State is undefeated, 4-0. FAMU 3-2. Alabama State 3-2. Alabama A&M 1-4. Bethune-Cookman 1-3, and unfortunately, the Mississippi Valley Delta Devils is 0-5. Haven't won a game yet.
Wow.
Yes, sir. And for the MEAC, North Carolina Central is 4-1. Delaware State is 3-2. Morgan State is 2-2. South Carolina State is 1-3. Howard is 1-4. And Norfolk State is 0-5. And which I'm not gonna lie, I'm surprised with the South Carolina State. They always have a little problems in the first couple of games of the season, and they come out strong. South Carolina State in that MEAC division, but looks like North Carolina Central is not going anywhere, being 4-1, and I'm surprised at Norfolk State being 0-5. So
Yeah.
that let me know with Coach Dawson over there. Usually he have his players ready to play, being a former Southern Jaguar. But I'm gonna give the brothers some slack. This is their second season with Norfolk.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna take him a while to build that program up. So you got to give him time to get it going.
Yeah, you're definitely right. You're definitely right. Want to go over some scores real fast. Uh, Alabama A&M beat Bethune-Cookman 35-27. Former Jackson State quarterback when Coach Prime took over the program, Jalen Jones, transfer, was the high man with 353 yards thrown through the air and a touchdown. Mississippi Valley falls to FAMU 34-7. The Purdue Boilermaker transfer Jeremy Musa lit up the skies with 291 yards and 2 touchdowns. Arkansas Pine Bluff gets, yeah, coach over there smiling, gets the brakes beat off of him by Southern University 59-3. Bishan McCray is the high man on the offense side of the ball, lighting up the skies, 241 yards and 4 touchdowns. That young brother ball. North Carolina A&T beat Bryant 24-13. And forgive me, he got a very unique name, uh, uh, by Shoot Tootin, running back for North Carolina A&T. Was gliding on the ground for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. Uh, Prairie View A&M outlast. Well, they did more than outlast Grambling. They uh, beat them 34-14. Noah Bean for Grambling tried to do some things on the yard, but it didn't. Only 33 yards on the ground. Prairie View A&M look over there looking strong. Alabama State beats Ouch. Good game. Beats Texas Southern 16-13. Auburn transfer, one of the Texas high school legends other than Kyler Murray, Demetrius Davis over there North Shore over there by Houston. Um, Only threw for 104 yards, but he managed the game pretty well. And their running back Jawan Howe ran on the ground for just 75 yards, a touchdown, but it was just enough. Texas Southern defense didn't give up too much, but they still lost. Uh, Alabama State looking decent, not uh, not really not really that strong, but they they might surprise a lot of people going when the season goes forward. Now I know you want to go ahead and get your Southern Jaguar, your recap on that Southern Jaguar game, Coach. Let's go ahead and get your feedback on that real fast.
Well, I mean, they won 59-3. I mean, it wasn't much of a game. Um, more than
No
anything,
kidding.
I just kind of look at level of competition.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
it's crazy how Pine Bluff, like just a few seasons ago, they're a pretty good team, and at this point, it's not much to talk about. I mean, of course, Bashan McCray, he was the leading passer. He looked pretty dynamic, but like I said, again, it's the level of competition. So I wasn't overly moved. I mean, he ran for a lot of yardage. He passed for a lot of yardage, but still, I mean, he still has his deficiencies. I'm still of the opinion that Glendon Bubba McDaniel, of course, he came into the game like late when he scored when the score was like what 50-63. So he came into the game like late in the second half. By that point, my sister and my mom, they were ready to go. So we pretty much fouled out when Glendon Bubba McDaniel got to the game. I still think he's the better option as they starting quarterback. So I think Bashan McCray, he looked amazing, but it's a level of competition. Is he going to do that this coming week against Prairie View? It's the big question because, he still has a difficult time going through his progression. I mean, there were a couple of times in the game where Southern went empty, and he basically he locked on to the receiver, to the side by the single receiver side, and he was able to get that receiver was able to get open. He was able to throw him the ball, but once you can't get off your first and second read, when you got to go through your entire progression, that's where he struggles. I think the big thing about it, I was expecting Gerard Sims to be the lead rusher, but Kendrick Grimes, he was like the bell cow running back. He's not a big back. He kind of reminds me of a couple old Southern running backs. Ryan Lewis. Ryan Lewis was like 5'6", like maybe like 1 6'5", like the smallest running back. You could throw him the ball out in the flats and he could make something happen. You could let him run between the tackles and he was a dynamic runner. And Southern had a similar running back named Cedric Holmes. He was like 5'3", 5'4", and he was like 150 pounds. So
Dang.
he reminds me of those two backs. They were both fast. They were both dynamic. And you got him in the open field. You wasn't gonna catch him. Kendrick Grimes is like he's that kind of back. And I was expecting Gerard Sims to be the leading rusher, but he wasn't. It was Kendrick Grimes. And I mean, for the most part, all three backs played. You know, they got shine, but more than anything, like I said, it's Bama State. I mean, Pine Bluff. They're not what they was a few years ago, especially in the spring season. Coach Prime's first, you know, his first time coaching J State. If I'm not mistaken, I think Pine Bluff won the SWAC that spring. So, it's amazing how far they've fallen in such a short time frame. So, I'll be impressed if he played this way against Prairie View this coming weekend. I'll be impressed, but more than anything, just the level of competition. He was able to run like he wanted, throw like he wanted, but he's still a 1-2 read quarterback, and that's it. So it just kind of remains to be seen what's going to happen this coming weekend.
Yes, sir. Definitely agree, and y'all definitely have a tougher task against Prairie View A&M. They're pretty good. They're definitely not going to be any slouch at all. Uh, just want to slide over to back to the MEAC. What I find very interesting is North Carolina Central. Now that their big brother is gone, um, to what division is it? The Big Sky or the Big South? What's the division it's called?
Yeah, it's something like that. And to me, the issue with that particular situation is, to me, I think they're better off in the MEAC.
Me too.
You
You
know
took
whether
the words right out of my
whether
mouth.
whether it's them or whether it's like a Tennessee State type team. I prefer those teams to be in the MEAC, and it'll make the MEAC a stronger conference. I think it's just like Louisiana high school football. It's kind of watered down the way it's set up right now.
I hear you. Is Ridgeway still strong? Ridgeway High School.
You from
They
Louisiana?
came down to Texas a couple of years ago and played Dallas Skyline. Yeah, in
No, not
Louisiana.
really. I mean, yeah, I mean, the top teams in, like, 5A, 4A, like, your Catholic highs, your Zachary highs, those type of schools. Even the schools that were dominant when we were in school, those were the reason why they restructured it. But those teams were in 1A and 2A, Evangel Christian and John Curtis. They in 5A, 9, they're not having the same success they had. So that's why I say it's kind of watered down at this point. But yeah, but you said
Yeah,
you referring to, no, no.
yeah. Okay, okay. But what I was about to say for the MEAC, I find it interesting that it was either three teams in the MEAC that was going to trying to compete for the first spot. Either South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, or North Carolina Central. So I'm not really shocked North Carolina Central is doing what they do. Is basically trying to take over the MEAC division.
You're breaking up a little bit. All right.
You hear me
Hello?
now?
Nah, you're still breaking up a little bit.
I can hear you. I could hear the breakup on your end. I don't know if you got me on speakerphone.
Okay, 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 we good now.
All right, but yeah, North Carolina Central is looking very strong. I like that quarterback they have. I'm blanking on the young man's name. Number 11 is balling for them. They did fall. Their only loss was to was to the New Hampshire last week. They did compete, but of course their bench was a little bit deeper. Not as deep as a Power Five or even a powerhouse FCS school like North Dakota State or something like that. But you could tell the difference. But no, North Carolina Central was moving the ball against them, and that's their only loss.
So
That's
it,
their
it
only
seems
loss.
like they definitely. I don't mean to cut you off, bro. It seemed like they definitely the cream of the crop in the MEAC this season.
Yeah, definitely. Things may, cause don't sleep on South Carolina State. Oh, you notice in the last year in the celebration bowl, their record was what 7-5 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean they synonymous with starting off slow. So yeah.
You cutting out just a little bit, brother. I can hear you now.
All right. Oh, I
All right,
said
there
they're
you go.
synonymous with starting off slow.
Yes, they are very slow. But of course, we Jackson State had a bye week. But whether it's the Jackson State fans or Jackson State bandwagon, everybody picking Jackson State, and rightfully so. All that talent they have on that side of the ball to on both sides of the ball, I should say, to take over the SWAC East
I mean,
and eventually
I
win the
don't.
SWAC
It's no
championship.
question that. Yeah. I don't mean to cut you off again, bro. It's no,
You good?
it's no doubt that they have the. It's no doubt that they have the talent. They are a loaded team. You know, I think the biggest hurdle and the biggest obstacle for them is just kind of remaining focused week in and week out. Because, like I said, even going back to last year, there's no way South Carolina State should have won that Celebration Bowl. So, I think if they could stay focused week in and week out, that's kind of that'll be the big test because, even years Southern won Black National Championships and White Championships, it'll be just one off week where they lose to a team like Nickel State, State. So it's all. In fact, the three years that they won and they only lost one game. One year they lost to a Nickel State, and that was the only game they won the whole year. Another year, they lost to Jackson State, and that was the only loss that year. And then that other year they lost to Alcorn State, and that was the only loss that year. So just remaining focused week in and week out is the biggest test when you have a team that's talented.
Definitely. I think Coach Prime with this crop talent that they have, they definitely have the potential, more than the potential, to win the Celebration Bowl. If not, just go undefeated the whole season. The only thing I disagree with you is that Jackson State last year, and I know you being the coach and looking at, just looking how um, the athletes they had. I didn't see, no matter how many transfers they had from Division 1 program, I did on the defensive side of the ball. I ain't see nobody who can cover number one. That 6'5" wide receiver. Uh, Shaq
Mm-hmm.
something. I'm blanking on his name. The brother's name, young brother's name. But I couldn't see anybody that could cover him, and they were smart to get the ball to him, and that's what they did because nobody could cover him. But I think this year they have, like, that's why they uh, recruited the Travis Hunters, the um, other players from Division 1 programs, or 4-star or even 3-star type athletes on the in the secondary, so they
You're breaking up,
can try.
bro.
I'm here.
Oh
Are
yeah, I
we
can hear you
clear?
now.
Okay. So,
Yeah, we clear.
all right. So basically, they have the athletes to cover against those type of athletes this year in the secondary. That's my in my
Yeah,
opinion. So
I agree with you from that standpoint. But the thing about it is, if you look at the course of the season last year, they really didn't have to double anybody. They played everybody man to man, and even Southern. There were a couple big plays that receivers dropped passes, and had they caught those two passes, Southern would have won that game last year at AW Mumford Stadium. So, those couple drop passes. So I see what you mean in terms of they were vulnerable in the secondary. But even with that being said, I mean, they were so used to playing man to man that they couldn't even double him. And from a schematic standpoint, I mean, that's something you should be able to do. You should be able to, even though he's 6'5", you still should be able to double him effectively. So
yeah, I see what you're saying. Definitely see what you're saying. What who impressed you with going to the Power Five schools? Who impressed you during the FBS games?
I'm not gonna lie, I was very impressed with the way Wake Forest took care of Florida State. I was
Mm,
they went just was able to just in a running game. I was very impressed by that. Other SEC school that I was really impressed by. But Clemson, oh yeah, Clemson also. I was impressed with the win that Clemson got this weekend. So I was impressed by Clemson. I was impressed by Wake Forest. I mean, and it's ironic, usually, it's the SEC teams that I'm kind of moved by their performance. But this past weekend, I was moved by two ACC teams' performance, Wake Forest and Clemson. I think they both had big victories this weekend.
yeah, yes, sir. I definitely agree because my Tar Heels won, um, taking out Virginia Tech, but I'm still not impressed. Our defense still gives up a lot. So to be honest with you, if we play anybody in the ACC or anybody that can know how to throw the ball, and throw the ball decent, we our secondary food. Just being honest with you, our secondary is food, man. Anybody we play, and I'm not, and if Junior the Truth listens to this, he's probably gonna be smiling.
Wow,
I'm fearing that if we I'm fearing that
that's a
Pittsburgh
big
game, man.
statement.
Yeah, I'm fearing that Pittsburgh game. We gonna get lit up, bro. For real.
Pittsburgh game. Wow. Wake Forest, they
Yes, sir.
primarily I mean, they had some success passing, but they primarily ran the ball on Florida State this weekend. So that and and looking at Clemson, I mean, Clemson had a pretty balanced attack. So the ACC kind of remains to be seen. And even though I'm not gonna say I was impressed by them, Alabama had a big win this weekend. You know,
You took one the game that I was impressed with. Yes, sir.
oh, so you're impressed with the Bama win?
Yeah, and I don't like Bama, but I have to give credit what credit due. Arkansas was pumped up. They were not intimidated by Alabama at all. So they played ball first 3 quarters, but that fourth quarter, man, Alabama said, "Hold on, let me show you who's the true powerhouse." And they just did. They just poured it on, man. Everybody was picking.
And it's
Some
crazy that
people was go ahead.
it's crazy that they did that with a backup quarterback. Also,
Yeah,
not your Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who got hurt during the course of the game. That was very impressive. Also, I mean, I wasn't super impressed with the win, but the way they were able to hold Arkansas off, in on the road, and with a backup quarterback, I found in its totality, I found that impressive. Not the overall win, but the way they won was impressive more than the actual win itself. If that makes sense.
makes perfect sense actually. Makes perfect sense. But Alabama in that what's his name? Metri or Petrie? What is his name? They comparing to Lamar Jackson, that backup quarterback for Alabama.
Now, bro.
Yeah, you breaking up bad, brother.
Oh, you were breaking. I don't know if that was me or you, but you were breaking up real bad also. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can hear your background.
Oh, all right, all right, all right. Oh, all
Like,
right. Well, you were breaking up real bad on my end. I don't know if it was me or you or what.
yeah, I can hear static in your
Can you hear me?
background. Yeah, I can hear you clear now.
Oh, all right. All right, all right, all right, all right. But no, but what that was you were saying about Alabama?
Yeah, Alabama, that backup quarterback, he looks dangerous, man.
Yeah, he played well in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did. Now we're gonna go into a topic, the topic of our show, Coach. Um, and I know you're gonna love. I know you're gonna love this. You being a coach and you dealing with other coaches and you having to hold your tongue. Um, as everybody knows, the title of the show are overrated coaches the issue in both college programs and NFL teams. And not it could be also it could be high school, junior college. It doesn't matter. Um, one video I might send it to you, Coach. There's an old video for a couple of years ago from James Booby Miles, the real James Booby Miles, and he was sitting at the table
Mm-hmm.
with his friends, and he was saying how Coach Gaines, he was the how, he considered to be a great coach, one of the best high school coaches in Texas for the Permian Panthers. And if you, those who you don't know, those that was the high school team featured in the based off of in the movie Friday Night Lights with Billy Bob Thornton. Um, so the real James Booby Miles was saying how Coach Gaines wasn't a hell of a coach. That he had talent. The reason why because he had talent back to back years to at least get him a couple more championships, but he couldn't. He only got one. So I just told you that story to correlate with, for example, everybody's talking about it. John Harbaugh. I'm a big Baltimore Ravens fan. I love my Baltimore Ravens. Um, and he kind of let I he kind of teed me off talking about analytics when it made sense for us to kick the field goal. Those who didn't know what I'm talking about. So Lamar moves the ball down the field. We in our red zone, Instead of just kicking the field goal on fourth down, John Harbaugh, I don't know if it was the offensive coordinator Greg Roman or John Harbaugh decision. Everybody says John Harbaugh decision at that point. He decides to go for it and to throw a pass. There's a lot. Hey, there's a lot of static. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, bro.
All right. So, like I was saying,
You cut in and out for a minute.
yeah, I can hear it. I can hear the static
I
on your
heard you
end.
talking about John Harbaugh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. I heard you say John Harbaugh they made a questionable decision with the four down call.
Correct. So, me personally, a lot of Baltimore Ravens fans feel that the reason why and he's not a bad coach. I'm not going that far. But when it comes to certain uh, decisions he's made in the clutch, um, like a Bill Belichick or Andy Reid, or Tony Dungy, or coaches of that caliber, he's made the opposite calls, and they were stupid, very stupid, which did not work out in our favor. So I can even go as far as to tell you that the Super Bowl we got was basically sort of because of Ray Lewis and that defense. Of course, we had a serviceable enough offense to take us to move the ball with Ray Rice and uh, Torrey Smith that can take the top off of defense. Uh, Joe Flacco, who can throw it 90 yards. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback, but he got the job done. But it was solely our defense. So I just feel like any coach who was good enough could take the reins of that type of team and win a Super Bowl. Uh, I'm not saying any coach, but a decent enough coach of John Harbaugh's caliber. Now we getting to the point where we need the coaches that are smart enough to go ahead and kick the field goal, or just do the simple stuff. Just do the simple stuff instead of following analytics, uh, listening to the players. I'm seeing that done not just in the NFL. I'm seeing that done in college. I'm seeing that done in high school. So I just want to get your opinion on that, Coach.
Well, first of all, no team is gonna win a championship on any level without talent. So you got to have a certain level, a certain degree of talent to have success. I mean,
Right.
I don't care even if you're talking about the NBA. You know, people talking about how like Phil Jackson, like the greatest NBA coach of all time. He led the Bulls and Lakers to championship. He didn't lead the Clippers or a bottom you have to have championship caliber talent to get to to win championships. First of all, but one thing I'm noticing on all levels from high school to college to the NFL, a lot of these coaches that supposedly are great coaches, whatever the case may be, of course they have talent, but I think more so a lot of these coaches they're not as good in terms of game management as you might think. They're not as good at clock management as you might think. And in terms of just situational football, a lot of these coaches aren't as good as people think they are. And more than anything, certain coaches, especially on the NFL level, they might be good coordinators, but they're not necessarily good head coaches. If that makes sense, because even if you look at the Saints right now, Dennis Allen, I think he's a very good defensive coordinator, but he's not a good head coach, in my opinion. I think that's the reason why the Saints are underachieving as we speak. So I think it's imperative that you have a good head coach that's that's good, not only a good coordinator, but actually a good head coach. Because some of these coaches, they clock management done great, they game management done great, and they great at situational football.
Okay, okay. So let me ask you this question: you being a coach, uh, how would you see that your head coach is making a dumb decision? How would you, as a defensive coordinator, or um, you could be the assistant coach, how would you approach that situation? How would you approach a head coach? You put yourself on the Baltimore Ravens staff, right? How would you approach a John Harbaugh?
Mhm.
Tell our coach, I don't think that would be a great idea, or even if it was Greg Roman's uh, idea to do that offensive coordinator. How would you convey it to them that that wouldn't be the best?
Well, me personally, I'm more of an offensive coach, so I would be more of an offensive coordinator, kind of giving the head coach my input or feedback. I mean, more than anything, you don't want to be disrespectful, but you want to be direct and just be honest. And most coaches I've been around are guys have like alpha personalities, and I mean, more than anything, you just want to be direct and just be honest and convey your message. But at the end of the day, if that person is the head coach, they have the ultimate final say when it comes to, whether we're gonna go for it or not, whether we're gonna kick a field goal, whether we're gonna
Right,
punt, whatever the situation, the circumstance is. Because even myself as a coach, most of the teams I've coached, we might not have had a whole lot of numbers, and even if we did have like real good talent, we didn't have a lot of numbers on the lower levels. Football is more of a numbers game more than anything. So in many instances, if I feel like we were falling behind a little bit too far, I would just go for it on fourth down. And many people like, well, why you didn't punt it? I'm like, hey, if we down by a couple scores or a few scores, it doesn't make no sense for me to punt the ball. We already in the hole, so we trying to like gain ground. So I just might as well go for it. So
right,
that's how I approach that type of situation. But more than anything, the head coach has the ultimate final say. That's why I say, like, I'm gonna give you an example. Les Miles is LSU head coach years ago. Les Miles won a national championship, but Les Miles' clock management skills was like trash. Because I remember one time they played against, if I'm not mistaken, it was the University of Florida, and they got way down the field, and they didn't have any more timeouts. They only had like a few seconds left. His clock management skills was garbage. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even great, even as Richardson is. I remember his last game at A.W. Mumford Stadium. Well, the field has been named after him since then, P. Richardson Field. But his last game, I mean, Southern had the ball on like the 50-yard line, and they were playing against Prairie for the essentially the SWAC championship. I mean, Southern couldn't win the SWAC championship during that game, but if Prairie View won, they was gonna win the SWAC, and they were at like the 50-yard line with like 2 minutes and 50 seconds left, and it took them like the entire 2 minutes 50 seconds to get out of like the 5-yard line, and they ended up losing the game. So to say you run a no huddle spread offense, it's like, come on, man, like you can't get half the length of the field in 2 minutes and 50 seconds to say you run a no huddle offense. So it's like many coaches, and I'm not saying to disrespect him, but I'm just saying from a clock management standpoint, or even from a game management standpoint, a lot of coaches that even win like national championships or whatever the case may be, these coaches might not be as good at situational football as people might think. And just kind of like one final point to drive it home to kind of say, certain coaches are good coordinators, whereas other good coaches Other coaches are good head coaches. We look at somebody like Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson to me is like one of the best coaches I've seen in my lifetime. And more than anything, he was like the CEO of a company. You know, he had all the best coordinators. He had good talent, especially when he was with the Cowboys. He had great talent. He had Troy Aikman, he had Emmitt Smith, he had Michael Irvin. He probably had arguably the greatest line in the NFL. He had a great defense. So more than anything, you know, he was a good, you know, overseer of his team. You know, I mean, he had a lot of guys that ended up going on to be head coaches like Dave Wannstedt. I mean, he had the best coordinators. So he wasn't just a per se like a offensive or defensive coordinator type of coach. He was more of a overseer of an organization. He was like the CEO, and he had all the best managers in place. You know what I'm saying? So certain coaches have different coaches styles. You know, some coaches are great coordinators, other coaches are good position coaches, but not everybody's cut out to be a great head coach. You know.
We see that time in and time out, so I definitely agree. Uh, but them guys get paid the big bucks, right? So we
Yeah.
just sitting
And,
around talking. But go ahead.
oh, one thing I want to bring up, bro. I don't know if you saw this, but USA Today came out with an article recently, and they talked about the analytics in terms of like NFL coaches, and you know initially just on a surface level, they talked about how 44% of the coaches in the NFL are black, but when they dug deeper, they saw like not a high percentage of head coaches are black. Then when it like went down to the coordinators, not a high percentage of coordinators are black. But more than anything, when they got into position coaches, like most of the position coaches in terms of race, like running back coaches, wide receiver coaches, and defensive black coaches, overwhelmingly those coaches were black. But when it came to quarterback coaches, offensive line coaches, and linebacker coaches, a majority of those coaches were white. And those positions are kind of like pipelines to coordinator positions and head coaching jobs. So they surveyed and they polled the different general managers, and they asked like reason why, like such and such wasn't hired to be a head coach. And of course, they came out like with generic type answers like, well, we don't think he looked the part. To me, that's kind of covert way of saying, he's not white. Uh,
Yeah, it is.
he doesn't, huh?
It is.
Yeah, and also they talked about how certain coaches don't have good clock management skills and game management skills. You know, they never was a coordinator. They never called plays, or whatever the case may be. And like literally every Sunday, I watch NFL games. Like it's a constant contradiction because there's no way you can't tell me that uh, Eric Bieniemy or Byron Leftwich should not be a head coach in the NFL at this point. Because there are many coaches that are mediocre and below average. I'm not gonna call any specific name of coaches, but a lot of these coaches in the NFL aren't that good, and a lot of them weren't even coordinators. They just jumped from those pipeline uh, position coach positions to being head coaches. Some of them weren't even coordinators. So the thing I'm trying to make is, uh, in some instances, general managers, they try to shape a narrative or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, a lot of these coaches, even though like you said, they get paid big bucks and they lifetime coaches, they played in the NFL for years. A lot of these coaches aren't as good as people might think. And that's the thing about it. Many black coaches that deserve an opportunity don't get an opportunity because of the way things are set up and structured.
Yeah, that's true. Especially, yeah, and I definitely have to agree with why Eric Bieniemy is not uh, a head coach right now. It's beyond me that if that's not no underlying racism or prejudice, I don't know what is.
And the crazy thing about it, I kind of saw it a little bit, but Undisputed, Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless talked about it, and they was talking about how If you look at it like a great quarterback like Brett Favre, he got so many coordinators like Steve Mariucci. He got those guys like head coaching jobs. So they got credit for the success he had. But if you look at like maybe even Tom Brady, like like Josh McDaniels and all of those Charlie White, all of those guys from the Bill Belichick coaching tree that Coach Brady, all those guys got credit for the success he had. But if you look at Coach Brady, all those guys got head coach. Him becoming the head coach in the NFL, you got a great quarterback. But if you're a white coach coaching that great quarterback, it translates into you becoming a head coach. And in some instances, a mediocre coach, with some of these guys. So
Yes, sir. You're definitely right. There's more than enough black coaches that are qualified to be head coaches, but like you said, we have to jump through the obstacles, the bull crap evaluations, and it's. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's. You think you've seen it all, being black and being uh part of this Western Hemisphere, um, in the midst of this racism, but you keep being surprised every day, even in sports.
well, I mean, I'm not surprised by it, because like I say, even my sense, if you look at it, I mean, Dennis Allen, he was not a good head coach when he was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders. And at this point, with all the talent the Saints have, they should have more success. I mean, they undisciplined, they turn the ball over a lot. They have a lot of penalties. And I'm not saying it's a direct correlation of him as a head coach. I think he's a very good defensive coordinator. But just because you're a very good coordinator, that don't mean you're a good head coach. And in many instances, if you're a white head coach, if you get a shot and you don't succeed, you know, you could go back to being a coordinator. And if you have success as a coordinator, you might get a second shot at head coach. But if you black, in some instances, it might be one shot, one kill, unless you maybe somebody like Lovie Smith that end up going to the Super Bowl or winning the Super Bowl, then you might get another chance. But if you just a run-of-the-mill black coach and you don't have success, more than likely you might not get another opportunity if you don't, knock it out the park with your first shot. So if you're a black coach, it might be one shot, one kill.
One shot, one kill is right. I mean, somebody like Lovey Smith take the team, the Chicago Bears with Devin Hester on it, to the Super Bowl, and they didn't even really have a solid running game like that. Thomas Jones was hurt. Cedric Benson, Red God rest his soul, um, wasn't happy in Chicago, but they made it to a Super Bowl. So I mean, just to fire them because we already we know why they fired him, but like you said, we see it time and time again. There's nothing really to be surprised about.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm definitely excited about. Uh, I'm just happy football is here. There's been a couple of good games, even though my team's been losing, but I can't complain. I'm enjoying this football action. Uh,
Well, I don't mean to
co-
cut you off, bro. I trade success that your Ravens having for the lack of success my Saints are having.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. That's definitely true. Y'all just need me. In my opinion, y'all just need and I like Jameis, but um, if y'all can get somebody a little bit better than Jameis,
You're
y'all
breaking
be
up, bro.
straight.
You're breaking up, bro. Can you say that again?
Yeah, I can hear you on your end. Uh, but I was saying, if y'all can get a quarterback a little bit more talented than Jameis, y'all be straight.
Can you say that again?
Eh, If y'all can get a quarterback a little bit more talented than Jameis, y'all be straight.
You're still breaking up.
Yeah, hold on.
I still can't hear. Oh, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Now, what you were saying?
I was saying if y'all can get a quarterback a little bit more talented than Jameis, y'all be straight.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Uh, you know, I don't know if you know he has a transverse fracture, and he didn't even start
No, I
Sunday.
didn't know that.
Andy Dalton did, and
Mm.
yeah, and Andy Dalton played. Of course, he's not as talented as James, but he played enough. He played well enough for them to win. They were up 22-19 because the Saints played the early game. They played in London against the Vikings, and there was one point in the game where uh, the Saints were about to get off the field, and they made a questionable call against Teron Matthew for illegal hands to the face, and that kept their drive going, and they went down and they scored, and then they came back, and Will Lutz kicked a 60-yard field goal, and then the Vikings got the ball back, and they went down the field, and they kicked the field goal. And of course, they had a couple questionable penalties to keep their drive going again, and then at the end, Will Lutz kicked a 61-yard field goal, and it hit the crossbar and bounced back into the field, and that's how the Vikings won. So they played well enough to win the game, but they had two key crucial turnovers. Andy Dalton fumbled at one point, and then Deontay Hardy, he fumbled at another point. So the penalties and the turnovers are what killing the Saints. You know, so that's the biggest issue right now. I mean, they have a talented team, but they're just undisciplined. And like I said, I'm not placing all the blame on Dennis Allen, but I think that has a lot to do with it. It's because last year, the whole season, they only had 5 turnovers. To this stage in the season, they already have 6. So definitely.
Yeah, you definitely right. I think y'all still have a me opinion. I don't think y'all as bad as y'all showing. Like you said, with James Winston hurt, y'all have uh old veteran and Andy Dalton who's never been that consistent, but was good, just good enough to compete. Uh, if y'all can get that consistent play at quarterback without throwing interceptions, y'all be okay.
You know, I, I mean, truthfully, Andy Dalton, he's more of a guy that's gonna hold on to fort too until Jameis gets back. Explain what it is, when they played against the Carolina Panthers, not this past Sunday, but the previous Sunday. And essentially, on your spinal column, it's like a perpendicular fracture. So he has like a perpendicular fracture, along like his lower lumbar. And I think they say Derek Carr had it at one point. It's pretty painful. I mean, you can even see last week during the Carolina Panthers game, at certain points he was laboring and he was struggling to throw the ball. So it was obvious that he was hurt because they said going into the game he was hurt. I mean, I think they gave him like a flap jacket and extra injection or whatever the case may be. But I mean, it still was obvious. So I think Andy Dalton, maybe for 5, 6 games, I think he's going to be more than serviceable enough to get the job done because the Saints have a talented receiving core. Micah, Micah Thomas, he didn't play Sunday either, him nor Alvin Kamara. So, a couple of key big weapons were out. But even with that being They still played well enough to win, but they can't beat teams. You know, if they're -1, -2 in the turnover column, they have all the penalties they have. So if you take away the penalties they had Sunday, especially like the key critical penalties and those key critical turnovers, they win that game. So I think he played well enough for him to win, but they just have to cut down on the turnovers, the penalties, especially the penalties. The penalties are killer. Even though I know the referees made questionable calls in certain instances, especially like Teron Matthew and Lattimore. Both of those penalties were like ticky tack penalties, but at the same token, they're not a disciplined team at all. So
Yeah, your team ain't the only one, man. My Baltimore Ravens defense is very it's very sporadic right now. From the secondary to the D line is playing okay, but we're not getting any pass rush at all.
wow, bro, that's ironic because the Saints are the opposite. The Saints, their defensive line is like at times this past Sunday they were dominant. With Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan and David Ayumada and Shia Tuttle and all of those guys. Get a lot of pressure on Kirk, but on the back end, it just was like making like stupid mistakes and Justin Jefferson and Irv Smith Jr. and Thielen. They kind of had a field day at certain points during the game. So even Dalvin Cook out the backfield. So you know they have to get it together.
Both our teams have to get it together, man. It's crazy. It's definitely crazy. Um, but a double perspective. This must be my brother. I don't think he got his stuff connected. But we got more football action on the way, Coach. Um, I am looking forward to us. Uh, you guys, New Orleans play actually. Looking for it. Hold on, give me one
The Seattle
second.
Seahawks.
The
The
Seattle
Seattle
Seahawks,
Seahawks.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Y'all at home, right?
Uh, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's a road game. If I'm not mistaken, but I know they play the Seahawks. And the reason that this is even though it's early in the season, they 1-3. It's a must-win game because even if you look at Week 1, they lost to the Falcons, the Saints. They tied with the Carolina Panthers for like the bottom of the division. Last week they played against Carolina. Not this past week, but the previous week. And I know at one point the Saints were trailing like 10-0, and I don't think Baker Mayfield had completed a pass, and if he did, it was on like one or two passes. Like his overall QBR was like I think something minuscule, like 12, 13, 14, 15. It was like a real low QBR, and they still lost. And if you look at Week 1, they should have beaten. They really should have lost the Atlanta Falcons, but they were able to pull that game out the fire. So they really don't have any momentum. They need to really dominate the Seahawks from opening kickoff to final whistle. And they just need to get out there and they just need to be aggressive and they need to win this game just to build some momentum and to have some steam going because the way they're going now, in a few weeks, they'll be out the playoff picture. And that'll be a tragic thing considering that they gave up their first round pick this coming year. So if that pick is a real high pick and you don't have it, that's a problem.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And for my AFC team, the Baltimore Ravens, if we lose to Cincinnati, it's going to be a long season. Not saying we can't turn it around and win the division, but if we lose to Cincinnati, then I know they're decent. They're good actually, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They're wide receivers. But if we lose a division game or a conference game, then it's going to be tough sledding. Definitely going to be tough sledding.
Well, I mean, I think y'all in a much better position than the Saints, and even with the Bengals, uh, Joe Burrow, he's a beast, but his offensive line is terrible. I think if y'all could generate a pass rush, whether it's blitzing or whether it's just with y'all guys up front, I think y'all should have success against the Bengals. I mean, because his offensive line is terrible.
Yeah, well, and that falls back onto what I was telling you about our defensive line. Our defensive line plays okay, but the times when they should be trying to get after the quarterback, it seems like they can't get off their blocks. And Jason Olway, I was rooting for him, but at this point, he's been a disappointing. This Jason Olway was our first round draft pick year in 2020 and he ran a 4.4. So we was in love with that. Had 6'5" frame uh, from Penn State, but he hasn't been consistent, man. He can't get off of blocks at all.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but even if you have to blitz to manufacture a pass rush, I think Joe Burrow could be sacked every time to take it off the line.
Say that again.
You have to blitz pass rush. I think that's what they have to do because Joe Burrow's offensive line is not that good.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. But we should eat, but our consistency on defensive line and secondary is what scares me. But we definitely should eat, coach. But one way to find out, right? We'll see.
Yeah.
It's coming up Sunday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But coach, I really I apologize for the audio issues. I appreciate you taking your time to do the show with me. Appreciate you. Um, appreciate you very much. I know you're a busy man. Teaching them young boys how to play ball right. Before we leave, is there anything you want to say?
What I want to say is salute to the amazing LDBC Lions and Boxing community. Follow me here on YouTube, Coach 67 Sports TV. Follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all on Coach, all at Coach 67 Sports TV. You to just to join you, bro. It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine, sir. And also, so second that what he said. All praise to the mighty LDBC. Uh, if it wasn't for them, we would be having the courage to do this, get on internet and talk away and just jaw away about sports. Um, appreciate those. We had enough people in here to play spades, but that's okay. We appreciate all y'all. Love y'all. Um, y'all have a blessed day. Be safe out here. Um, you make sure you love the ones that really got your back because every day we losing a lot of people. I mean, every time you turn on the TV, people are dying. Um, just lost a best friend. My dad just lost a best friend, a classmate a couple of weeks ago. Uh, it's crazy. So, if you don't take anything from me, anybody that is solid and that you love, please tell them how much you appreciate them because we don't know how much time we got on this earth. But with me saying that, y'all have a blessed night. Uh, thank you guys for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Salute.